Reclaimed, a podcast that dares to ask the question, is there a better way to live this chapter of our lives? A few years ago now, early in my midlife chapter, I experienced a life-changing burnout. A burnout that made me question my career as a psychologist, my relationships, but also the culture in which I live in, which celebrated or seemed to celebrate this busy hustle culture. So this catapulted me into a midlife course correction, and something that I continue to be on a journey on in terms of reclaiming and creating my midlife. And I'd love you to join in with me. Here we'll question the life-draining systems that exist in our society, and we will open up to our vulnerability with open hearts to find real lasting change. I will open up and share some of my vulnerability, as well as guests who choose to do the same, but also share practical wisdom from my profession, but also from other professions to help guide you with the wisdom needed to explore this chapter of your life and create it the way that you need to. I believe midlife is an opportunity to look in, to discover what is truly satisfying, fulfilling for you, and making those changes along the way. So if you're ready to call out what's broken, connect to your vulnerability like it's a superpower, and reclaim what is truly authentic for you, then you're in the right place. This is Midlife Reclaimed. Let's challenge the status quo, shape a better future for this chapter in our lives, one brave, courageous step at a time. Engaging in this podcast does not intend to create, nor does it create, a therapist and client relationship between you and myself. All the wisdom shared by myself or the guests is general in nature and not intended for your personal circumstances. As I have done for myself, I encourage those who are in distress to seek professional support. If you are in a life-threatening situation, please call your national emergency services. And if you're in need of urgent counselling, please contact any available national telephone services in your nation, or see your doctor as soon as possible. Stay safe, and please remember that you do not need to do this alone. Welcome back to Midlife Reclaimed, the podcast for burnt out women ready to rise. I'm Shannon A. Swales, burnout psychologist, women's midlife coach, and someone who's personally walked the winding road of burnout and recovery in my early midlife. In episode 52, I'm joined by Nicole Gribble, or as I know her, Nick, the owner and coach at This Is Living Nutrition, and a trainer at one of Australia's most popular gyms, Fitstop. Nicole works with adults across all life stages, but many of her clients happen to be midlife women navigating stress, hormonal changes, and the question we ask at some point, why am I doing everything right and I still feel so tired? Together, we explore how nutrition can be a key player in reclaiming your energy, how to move away from all or nothing thinking around food, and what a realistic, flexible approach looks like in real life. Whether you're in the depths of burnout or just curious about how food could support your well-being in your midlife more effectively, this episode is packed with practical tips and compassionate insights. So grab a cuppa, throw on your headphones while you meal prep or unwind, and let's get into it. Hey, Nick, and welcome to Midlife Reclaimed podcast. So lovely to have you here.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
More than welcome. Now, I want to start off by sharing with everyone out there how we met, because a lot of my guests I have had connections with before. I've actually got them on the pod to talk about what they're doing out there in the world and how that can be of help with my midlife audience. And ours was way back. It was pre-COVID, I think, and at a local Fitstop gym where you're a trainer. And that's how we originally first met. And I, got to eventually along the way work with you, not just as you as a trainer, but then as a nutritionist, which is what brings you here today, and got to really experience your vibe, your warmth, and what I'm hoping and I will know will come out today for the audience around nutrition, such an important topic. But yeah, it's been a while. 5 years back.
5 years,
Yeah.
probably 5 years. I think I worked at Fitstop for 5 years, so probably 5 years.
Yeah, because I think I just started when you'd been there for it had been open for I think about a year or maybe less, but you
Yes.
yeah.
I've probably been there about 6 months when you and Claire started.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
such I still have even though I'm no longer there, but not because it's such a wonderfully inviting, warm space, which you created as well as long as the rest of the team. But I think you're one of the mainstays there as the trainers. Yeah,
Yes,
the
me and
original.
Alyssa. Me and Alyssa.
Right.
Yes. And Dino.
Yeah, and Davina, of course, Dav.
Yes.
But hey, do you mind starting by sharing a little bit about what you're doing in the world? Of course, particularly what you've come here today to chat about, which is around nutrition. Yeah, give us a bit of that backstory. What's got you into this work? Yeah.
So actually, I used to work in nutrition, but with children and young people. So when I lived in England, I was a nutritionist for children. So I'd help children, but probably more families,
Mm.
work on weight management and actually adopting a healthier lifestyle to get the children a bit healthier, but learning about cooking, education. So I've always come from an education kind of background,
Mhm.
and it's always been nutrition. And then when I came to Australia, I shifted from children to adults,
Mhm.
started working at Fitstop. So I have quite a big training background as well. And I've been working with adults and nutrition, weight management for the last, I would say, 7 years.
Yeah, wow. Is there anything particular? I was uh, curious about that shift. I mean, you moved countries, which is wow,
Yep.
but also moved that specialty from children, families to adults. Was there anything particular that led you to make that shift? Mm.
I think it was more because most of the work was obviously done with the adults.
Mm,
So it was education for the adults, so they could obviously go back to the families
yeah.
and make the changes because that's normally kind of where it needed to be, education needed to be there because the parents just weren't that well educated or a little bit ignorant or just confused. So unfortunately, the children didn't have the best health. So
Mm,
when I actually came to Australia, I
mm,
thought I was working in the gyms and I was
mm.
like, oh, it's better to work with the adults because one, all the education comes from them to children. And
Yes,
also, you're a role model.
yes.
So as an adult, looking after your health,
Mm,
obviously it can get more complicated as you get older.
mm,
Um, and nutrition plays a massive part of that. So, and
yes.
also I just like working with adults.
Yeah,
Much as I love kids, I
yeah.
prefer to work with adults that are really wanting to make change.
Yeah, that are engaged and ready enough to, yeah, to
Yeah.
to go on that journey with you. Thank you for sharing that because I was just curious, but yeah, it's where you can make the most change because you're working with the adults anyway. Once they're up to speed or, with what is, best practice nutrition wise now. Because like you said, confused. I was one of the confused. So, but also didn't even know I was confused. I suppose it was like I was just following what I was taught, low fat, no carbs, or whatever crap was out
Yeah.
there at the time of my upbringing and all the issues, body image issues and stuff that I was carrying. But yeah, which probably led me to be confused, but just following a regime that was no longer, or it didn't ever work really. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So coming to someone like yourself who's so passionate and so wanting to educate and help and support people in having the education around nutrition, because that's what I'm hoping, and today to draw out. And I suppose that importance of nutrition, particularly in midlife. Like I know you work across the adult years, I'm sure the youngest you have to the
Yeah.
oldest. But I know we've talked a little bit, and you shared that you often do end up seeing women in that 35 to 65 bracket, that as we kind of term the midlife. I was just wanting to, touch on what's so important about nutrition in general for our health and well-being, but particularly in midlife.
Well, I think, like you mentioned, as we get older, things change, things get harder. So I think a lot of women do come to me at that age because, they've done what worked maybe in the past, or they've tried all the, fad diets and things like that. And because of everything that's changing in your body,
Mm,
the nutrition does need to change quite a bit with it.
mm,
So it's really important that, you can, it sounds really bad, but you can get away with a lot more when you're a bit younger.
mhm,
You can. And it does catch up with you because, you have that big shift in hormones.
mm,
You have lots of shifts as you get older. Your metabolism sh slows down as well.
mm,
So it's really important that, you can take control, how you're feeling physically.
mm,
And also you do feel more confident and, you want to feel healthy. So nutrition is probably the key factor. And I know a lot of people
mm,
think exercise, oh, it's fine, I'm exercising all the
mm,
time, where nutrition actually stands a little bit higher than exercise. It makes a much bigger influence to actually what happens with your body.
mm,
Exercise is brilliant because, all the mental health benefits, we want to get stronger, we want to get stronger muscles, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But
mm.
nutrition, I always say nutrition is king, a queen.
I
Yeah.
remember you, certainly that was coming through when I was working with you as well. And I think, and some others, that message, nutrition is really key, particularly as we get older and our body needs a lot more help around that. Like you said, can't get away with the things we used to get away with. And I know I grew up in an era where I think the message I adopted and many other women was that exercise was key. And like you said, it's really important. But in terms of key with weight loss or weight management, and it was like,
Yeah.
no nutrition. And it was
They
certainly,
say you can't outtrain a bad diet.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I did get away with that for a while, but then, yeah, hit certainly the late 30s, definitely the 40s. I cannot get away with it like I used to. Um, and the more and more I learn about food too, the more and more I don't want to get away with it. It's such an important building block in our bodies from day dot, right? And part of me wishes I knew what I know now then. Hey there. I promise you this is just a short break from your podcast viewing or listening. Thank you, by the way, for tuning in to let you know where all of this started. Back in my burnout height, I kept a journal. And the reason I kept a journal, and I never kept a journal before, well, I kept a diary as a teenager, but only for a short while. But the reason why I chose to journal is because I realized how disconnected I had become from myself, and I really wanted to connect in. So I used writing as the way in which to do that. And I ended up publishing just myself these journal entries up on a blog, and had a few followers and people who really found it helpful that I shared my very raw experiences, which later down the track, as I improved, I decided to put it into a book, which, just bear with me, it's just up here on my shelf, proudly. It's called Nothing Left to Give, A Psychologist's Path Back from Burnout, and basically is the collection of all the journal entries I kept for around a year. So from around December, January 2020, 20 to 21 to January the following year, so 2022. Yeah, so it's all in there. And also, besides the raw feelings, thoughts, everything that was coming up, lots of perfectionism, lots of self-sabotage, self-sacrifice, my journey into therapy, so many things are in there. And I've also included some of the all the wellness practices that often as I would journal, I would connect with, from my own knowledge and wisdom, being a psychologist, to help support me out of and beyond the burnout. I also was collecting a lot of knowledge and wisdom and skills at the time through the therapy I went into and did, and also just a lot of reading, listening to podcasts and just stuff like that, building my resources. So it's all in there. And it's in ebook as well as paperback, just not audio yet. I'd love that. And it's 25.99 Australian, and for the ebook, $11.99 Australian. You can purchase it on Amazon in either of those forms. And please let me know if you do purchase it, read it. I'd love to hear from you, to see what it has meant to you. But back to your episode. Take care of you. What are the things that you notice, like with working with women in this age group, sort of the challenges that they're coming to you with around that nutrition, just some of those, or even the challenges they face as they're working with you and
I
getting.
feel like one of the biggest challenges is their actual mindset.
Mm,
And mindset is such a huge thing in the process. So
mm,
I'll just use an example. So have a lady um, later on in life, and she's been trying it for 4 weeks. And because the scale hasn't moved,
mm,
she's like, doesn't work for me, not working, I don't want to do it anymore.
mm,
Which is really frustrating because, it's not just about, a number on the scale.
mm,
That's really irrelevant. Our weight fluctuates for so many different reasons.
mm,
And because we've been brought up to measure how good we feel or how healthy we are
mm.
by stepping on the scale, it's
Yeah.
really hard to get people out of that mindset. Um,
Mm,
so I would say that's a massive challenge that I face and that my clients face is trying to shift that mindset of, judging on how well they're doing on a number that's they're standing on, a piece of glass or whatever a scale is these days.
yeah.
Um, Instead of that, actually trying to shift the focus into, fueling the body, how you
Mm,
feeling,
mm,
how your
mm.
energy's feeling. Might be that your clothes start to get a bit looser. It might just be that you start feeling better and you're in a better mood.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest challenges is people are so fixated on that number.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really hard to shift that mindset
Hmm.
from the scale. I've even said to my clients, could you just throw it in the bin for me?
I
That would
think
be
you
great.
said that to me too.
Yeah, throw
Uh,
it in the bin
yeah. No,
because
you've
it
got
doesn't
scales. Go.
define how well and how much progress you're actually making. It's
Mm,
actually, we're talking about our health and how we're feeling and our mental health. So if you're feeling like you've got better energy to, move the body more or just making better nutritional choices, like
mm,
you've changed the foods that you eat, you started eating breakfast, you started eating more regularly,
mm,
that's a huge win and that's lots of progress.
mm.
It might not say it on the scale, but your body's probably changing, you're just not noticing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so a
Yeah,
lot of your work, or that challenge that you face and the women, therefore the clients face too, is shifting that mindset from that very weight kilos, yeah, or depending in other places of the world,
yeah,
pounds,
pounds,
pounds, kilos.
stones. Yeah.
Is there any others? Anyway, that yeah, taking away from that very narrow, doesn't give you much information, and if you're not shifting, it can lead you to quit. But not notice those, and I think now more important shifts and changes, energy levels. Uh, that's my biggest one. Or mental health. I
Yeah.
notice when I'm eating well, I'm not as sluggish. So therefore, my thought processes are often more open rather than very narrow and negative. And it just has such a ripple effect. But we live in a culture that's really facilitated that mindset of, weight loss and kilos, pounds, BMI, whatever those very narrowed, I'm going to use that word, very
Yeah.
narrowed points of reference, which doesn't let us know about that very holistic, rounded health that markers that you're sharing, energy levels, health, just generally how you're feeling, how your clothes are fitting, because you might have lost centimeters,
Yes.
inches. I remember you sharing that. Like, if you're going to chuck measurements in there, chuck some more variety, you
Yeah.
know.
And
Um,
also just, if it is something that you want to do, if you want to measure it, you could use photographs if you wanted to
yeah.
and use them to compare because you will see physical changes through, the photographs. So that's a good way of doing it. And also if for example someone, people don't understand another challenge is people don't understand that it isn't a short-term fix.
Mm,
A
mm,
journey that I would take my clients on is I actually do want to help them for a longer period of time because, I want them to actually be able to change their mindset and their habits, which takes time.
mm.
Um, and also they're going to go through challenges, it's going to be up and down because that's life.
Yeah.
It's not about being perfect, it's about just making those small wins. And I think people don't understand that a journey isn't 8 weeks, a journey isn't 6 weeks, it's 6 months, 9 months, 2 years. That's
Mm.
what it actually looks like for women. And sometimes when I, post how well someone's done, I have to say, just to let you know, this was over a 12-month period, or this was over a 9-month period, because I don't want people thinking that because it isn't easy.
No, this is why I was so attracted to working with you, Nick. And this is just reinforcing why I have and why I wanted you on this too. Is I mean, you've lived enough, you've experienced enough, to know that there is no quick fixes and really help women to go on this journey because it is. It's the I always say if someone's trying to sell you a quick fix, run that other way. Like, because
Yeah.
there's no such thing, particularly in nutrition, when we're carrying all these mindsets and stuff that comes from culture and we're unlearning and learning new ways. And the body, she takes whatever she takes to get there. And yeah, you've got that understanding and can help women go on that journey and really break those molds if they're willing. It's hard to let go of that old
Yeah.
shit, but so important to because it doesn't work. It just sends us into
Yeah.
crazy. And I see that in my line of work too. I think anywhere where there's a goal, people are looking for quick fixes, including myself. I mean, I've learnt the lesson, but I think we naturally gravitate to wanting the easy road, the quick fixes, because
Oh,
we
of
just
course.
we just want to feel good or whatever it is, or feel confident, or wherever it is we're wanting that end road to be. Yeah, it just doesn't exist, not sustainably anyway. Yeah.
Yes, and also, it's not always straightforward. Sometimes, yes, we can implement nutritional changes, which will, hopefully help someone along their journey, but,
Yeah.
sometimes there's other things that can get in the way. So sometimes I also work with naturopaths.
Yeah.
Um, so if I notice a client, for example, is showing symptoms of perimenopause, I say, I can help you with the food, but if you want to get some support with, your actual hormones, um, I
Yeah.
recommend, you go and get some blood test,
Mm,
and go and see someone that actually specializes in hormone health.
mm.
Um, Obviously go to the GP first to get them, but then obviously taking those results to someone that, has worked in hormone health or, that's the expertise, because
Yeah.
those people will be really
Mm,
able to help
mm.
someone, and I work alongside,
Yeah.
which works really well.
Well, that's it. Hey, we all have our little niche, we have our niche area, but we're often working in with something like that requires quite a holistic approach. So yeah, I'm often referring to naturopaths, because
Yep.
lots of midlife women who are burnt out, we discover, or they already are perimenopause or menopause, even postmenopause, but that the importance of exploring those other elements that contribute to, well, in my line of work, that chronic stress response and things that can help. I'm not a specialist in nutrition,
Yeah.
obviously, so I'd be referring to someone like yourself, or an exercise physiologist or trainer who can help with that side of things, with moving in a way that supports that person with where they're at. Yeah, all of that very holistic, multidisciplinary
Yeah.
approach is so important. So yeah,
Definitely important.
yeah. So of course you would see the hormonal imbalances. What else do you see that brings a challenge to their nutritional goals? Like in terms of that, yeah, multidisciplinary, what other sort of areas do you notice that you're referring?
Sometimes, you might have a bit more sensitivity to, insulin sensitivity and things. So sometimes it's playing around with, the different types of food or, the balance of macronutrients as well.
Mhm.
Um, I usually with someone that's, maybe showing signs, mood swings, difficulty being able to manage their weight.
Mm,
Um, I will always try and start them on as higher calories as I can. So
mm,
start them at a maintenance just to make sure that give them a little bit time, especially if they've been dieting,
mm,
or trying to diet for a long time or being in, low calories. Try and work with, what they've been doing, try and build that up first,
yeah.
before we do anything else.
Mm,
And then it's playing around with the nutrition, but always focuses, not unrestrictive. So, a little bit of balance in there because
yeah.
we all know it's really important that we do nail the nutrition and the macronutrients and, the nutrients that we need.
Mm,
But people need to live a little bit as well. So you do have that flexibility in,
mm,
but we want to try and make sure we hit nutrition. So high protein, high fiber is really good as well. Um, if someone cannot eat dairy, that's really good, obviously, for bone density,
mm,
vitamin D, all those stuff to make
mm.
sure that, we're trying to put as much nutrition in as we can to help, maybe some of the challenges that you might be facing.
Yeah, you've started to answer a question that I had, like what, but I feel like we could, certainly go in a little bit more. What are those deficits that you notice that a lot of the midlife women come to in terms of those, hopefully I'm saying it right, the macronutrients? I should,
Yeah.
feel like I should know, like, but yeah, like, because I know what mine were, but I just, yeah, what do you notice? Yeah, yeah.
Do notice quite a lot of people, they have been doing lots of very restrictive eating. So, you say, what have you been doing? What have you tried? Now I've tried every single diet. I've done the keto, I've done the fasting, I've done, and they'll list all the diets,
Mhm.
all the, diets that are not really normal eating, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Uh, and restrictive, quite low calories. That's
Yeah.
quite a common thing. So
Mhm.
straight away, if you're having quite a restrictive diet and quite low calories,
Yeah.
your body doesn't like being in a low energy deficit.
Yeah.
Our bodies aren't designed to be like that.
Mhm.
We want to thrive. So the longer that you put yourself in those really restrictive states, the
Yeah.
more, your body's going to probably work against you. It's going to downregulate things. So even an example might be, you're going to be exhausted. So
Mm.
you're not going to have energy to, go for a walk.
Yeah.
But you don't realize that you're also not going to have energy to be fidgeting more, moving just when you're just in the house, probably doing less around the house. All
Yeah.
these things from having a low energy diet for a long
Yeah.
period of time
Mm.
does cause that downregulation. So it's helping people realize that they actually need a little bit more food.
Mm. How does that go down? You
Oh,
need
it's
to eat
hard.
more.
Quite a few people say, I trust you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
And I think that's I know because I've worked with you both as a client in fitness and but also nutrition is you have a way to connect with people that you feel safe to I felt safe to take your lead and to take on what you said. I don't know, yeah, because I think it's about that connection with your the person you're working with, and you do have ability to help feel safe enough to trust, to take that leap of faith that what you're saying is even if you might be going. what, I've got to eat more?
Yeah, no, they said this
Freaking
doesn't
out.
make sense. So you're telling me,
Yeah.
and a lot of the time is you're telling me to eat more and do less. So less
Yeah.
like less cardio. I
Yeah.
said, yeah.
Which
But
goes against those mindsets you're mentioning
yeah,
earlier that culturally have been instilled in us through the diet and exercise culture that you've got to like cardio, cardio, cardio and eat less, eat less, eat less restriction to lose weight, if that's what we're doing, which, yeah, doesn't always equal that and equals. And I know I was always tired, always, yeah, yeah, we end up getting what we get from that. I
burnt
was food.
out.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say you end up feeling really burnt out.
Exactly. Like we know nutrition, and I was just at this summit on the weekend, menopause summit, and the thing I was taking away big time, Nick, you'd love this,
The
is
stress management.
no, 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 food.
Oh,
Food
food.
is
Oh,
medicine,
perfect.
and we
Yeah,
need to be feeding the nutrients our bodies need, particularly when the estrogen leaves our body. That they were talking about. And I don't have a medical mind. This is why I didn't become a psychiatrist and other reasons, but I don't have a medical mind. I'm better with the therapy side of things. But our body needs a lot more help. We can get away with it, but we don't get away with it in midlife due to estrogen and lots of other things. But
just
um,
need support.
yeah, and they
A
were
lot more
just,
support.
yeah. I mean, stress management was certainly coming through, but food does help with that. Food does help with our central nervous system and regulating it. So the I was about to say the right foods. I don't like that language, but the nutritious foods. And that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to hear from you, Nick. Like, because I know you're sharing that, okay, we need to often up the intake and sounds like maybe slowing things down as well with movement possibly. Anyway, we'll just put a pin in that one. Don't pay attention to me there. But I was wondering those particular nutrients, the macro or anything, the nutrients that you're noticing that are areas that need to improve for your midlife women that you're often putting in their nutritional plan.
I think one of the biggest ones is women aren't eating enough protein. One, because they don't know what that looks like. And obviously, as we get older, we're going to be losing muscle mass. So we need to make sure that we are trying to hold on to this as much as we can. So not just eating protein, but eating foods that are, rich in amino acids, so leucine, and putting foods in. So not just protein shakes, actual food. And also making sure that, they're eating at regular times through the day and having a protein intake as well
Mhm.
throughout the day is really good.
Regular. Yeah.
For our obviously for our muscles, but also recovery and also for our hunger as well. Um,
Mm.
Other things as well is just making sure that we're actually getting a balanced plate. So lots of veggies,
Mm.
making sure that we're hitting the micronutrients because
Mm.
fiber is super important.
That's what I learned on the weekend too. I don't think
Yeah,
I.
it's super important. And a lot of people just
Mm.
forget. So when I have clients, I always have a rule of, you get your recipes, you get your meal plans. The rule is add as much extra veggies as you want or salad, because
Mm.
obviously I want you to, not everyone loves it, but I want to encourage my clients to, add as much as they can because it adds that volume, helps
Mm.
if they are trying to manage their weight, but also fiber.
Yeah. Fiber
Yeah,
is
lots of
hugely.
leafy greens.
Mm. Yeah, that plant, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And what you were mentioning there about protein too made me think of the whole foods, like actual foods, yeah, that contain the protein in it. And you were saying, what's the difference between, I mean, I know the difference between plant-based and animal-based protein, but I just want to get your thoughts on that um, with what you're noticing, if anything, like should be concentrating on one on the or the other? What's the go there with it?
I think it's preference as well, because obviously not everyone wants to eat animal
Yeah,
proteins, which
vegan,
is fine.
vegetarian. Yeah.
So you can still get, protein and amino acids from non-animal proteins as well. A lot of dairy is quite good, to up the protein as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Legume, all that stuff will add to it. So if you are following a more plant-based diet, which I do have some plant-based
Mm,
clients as well, It's just
Mhm.
really important. And do you know what? I always look at their meal plans. I always go, oh, their meal plans are just, full of
Mm,
um, goodness. So I always
yeah.
look at them and go, oh, yummy.
And I
Because,
have,
you start at all the bits and pieces.
it's usually, I well, I went through training in mindful eating, and I remember one like we eat with our senses, and I find often a lot of the vegetarian or vegan dishes that I've been bothered to cook because I'm a yeah, I don't do cooking very, but the color I often find in, well, even I suppose in your meals where there's meat as well, but the color comes from the plant stuff. I always just
Yeah.
color.
They
Um,
say eat the rainbow.
yeah, eat the.
Eat the rainbow. Eat the rainbow. So eat the color. Yeah.
I've never heard that, but I love it. I mean, eating with your eyes, and I really took that. Like if I'm making a stir fry, which used to be one of my staples way back, because that's what Mum cooked.
Yeah.
She cooked stir fries, and amongst other dishes, more because she's English in origin. So there was a lot of English dishes like casseroles and things like that that her mum taught her. But then she added in stir fries that she learnt as an adult, and it was just color, lots of color, and that does light me up. Eat the rainbow. I like that. But hey, protein, fiber, and what about fats? Because that fat,
Healthy fats.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I wanted to
'Cause-
get your take on
yeah.
that because I'm sure a lot of midlife women out there, like myself, were brought up around that whole fat bad. And so we were like eating everything on the shelf that said low fat or no fat, which wasn't always, yeah, the best. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us about fats.
And I think as well, a lot of the stuff that is marketed as being low fat, you
Mm.
usually look at the back of it and it's quite highly processed anyway.
I know.
But
It's
they get you.
shocking.
They're like, yep, they get you. But fats is really important for our hormone health, also our immune system. So making sure that we're including fats is definitely important. Omega-3, so salmon,
Mhm.
avocados. It's really important to include them. It's also important to be mindful of portions with them
Mm.
because if your goal was obviously to manage your weight, and we know olive oil, and we're just throwing lots of it in there, it's
Like
really easy
frying
to,
our chips in them.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you're doing what my husband does and just literally pours the bottle in, really easy to kind of change the nutritional profile of the meal. But
Mm.
adding in healthy fats is good. Just obviously be mindful. So if you thought about your plate, you
Yeah.
might have half of it like your veggies, bit of
Mhm.
carbs, bit of protein, and then a smaller bit of fat.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
about those portions. Hey, just a quick break to let you know I've created a free resource called Journaling Your Way Beyond Burnout. It's designed to help you reconnect with yourself, reflect on what truly matters, and includes gentle guidance on how to get the most out of your journaling to support your health and well-being. To receive this gift, all you need to do is join my mailing list, a little burnout care in your inbox. You'll get updates on new podcast episodes, blog posts, helpful resources and services, and personal reflections from me. If that sounds like something you'd find helpful, head to www.burnoutpsychologysupport.com/subscribe or just check the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode. I was curious. I mean, you mentioned carbs there, and I suppose I just wanted to check in because that's another huge message a lot of us got, carbs bad. And as you're sharing, it is an important, like everything else, protein, fiber, fats, but the type and all that, with the fats. But with our carbs, because the potato, I've heard a lot of people who in midlife who haven't eaten a friggin' white potato in a long time, or even a sweet potato, like just totally ruling out those veggies. And I just wanted to get your take on the whole, yeah, your
Yeah.
expertise around carbs. Yeah. Mm.
Well, if you think about our body and so each macronutrient has a different role. Carbohydrates is the body's preferred source of energy and also the brain's. So,
Mm.
you might have done a no carb diet before. I know I've definitely done one of those.
Mm.
And you might experience a bit of brain fog, and it's just because our body actually thrives off carbohydrates.
Mm.
Especially if you exercise, carbohydrates is going to be your main fuel source because your muscles, energy, glycogen. that needs carbohydrates to refuel.
Mm.
So in terms of going to the gym and exercising or just having energy, carbs play a really important role.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about my burnt out peeps and the people out there. It's almost like we need an abundance of it at the time. And I know I was going for often when I was stressed and down in energy, I always reach for more of the, if I'm getting this right, Nick, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the starchier carbs, a little sort of faster
Yep.
act. You know what?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the
You will.
starchy carbs.
Yep.
And not filling myself up with the non-starchy carbs, the leafy greens, the variety of vegetables. I was mostly focusing on my chips from Macca's or my, ice creams or my chocolate, the sugary ones.
Yep.
And yeah, short bursts of energy, but certainly not helping and would have contributed. Yeah, and my protein, absolute shit. Like nothing was in balance in that plate, no. And still, I wouldn't say I'm certainly, and no such thing as perfection, but still working on that area, but have that knowledge and education more about what is and can fuel my body. And like we're hearing from you today. So yeah, carbs are important, but
Yeah,
it's
they're important.
just like the
Obviously,
fat. Mm.
yeah, and it depends on, there's time and place for different carbohydrates sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about training, you
Mm.
might have simple carbs around training just to
Mm.
get the energy into the muscles nice and quickly. But then, if you want sustainable energy and you don't want those big dips in your blood sugar, which will,
Mm.
affect your
Yes.
cravings and your hunger and your energy,
Mm.
that's when you're going to be picking, more, whole grains,
Mm-hmm.
more complex carbs. So rather than, your chocolate and your lollies, things that are really just for longer, they're the ones that you might use for fuel, for training and stuff like that.
Mm. Mm. I suppose my last question around sort of those nutrients, I just feel like I need to give a shout out to sugar. Well, not a shout out to sugar, but just, I mean, creating space for sugar because we all get trapped in and processed foods. Like I'm popping sugar and processed foods into the one thing, but we've got such an abundance of it in our day and age. So much processed food, so much high sugar. I just, we can't take, it's in our environment, but just any advice there or support or what you notice, just want to give space to. Mm.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I would say with, sugar, chocolate, all that stuff, probably the biggest mistake that most people make is banning it, removing it from their diet instead of eating it smarter. So, for example, you're feeling a bit snacky, you're feeling a bit bored, tired, whatever it might be. So you think, oh, I really want some chocolate. So rather than just going to, the cupboard or the fridge and just getting some chocolate and just eating that on its own, you could actually pair it with something that's going to make it a little bit more sustainable, help with the energy, but also make you feel a little bit fuller. So instead of repeating the trip back to the fridge
Mm.
multiple times and eating more of the chocolate and more of the chocolate, you still have a little bit of the chocolate that you wanted, but you might pair it with yogurt or, some strawberry, yogurt and some strawberries, which then becomes a bit more of a nutritious meal, which will, you get your fiber, you get your protein, and you still get that bit of chocolate, but instead of returning to get more chocolate, you just are satisfied.
Mm.
So I
I love
think that's two
that.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't restrict and try pairing foods.
Yeah, I love that too because and I think I've done that, but not consciously. But that, like, yeah, dressing up that sugar food, like
Yep.
I heard someone call it that day, like dress it with something else that's nutritional. So yeah, I've done like if I feel like a sugar fix. I will get my yogurt and I'll put a little bit of honey in it and then some blueberries because I usually don't have chocolate at home and I'm too
Yep.
lazy to go to the shop. So, well, just can't be bothered putting the effort in. But instead of overdoing it, let's say on, God, I mean, shit, if I had,
Crisps.
so, sorry, yeah.
Crisps. Like
Yeah.
chips.
And just go, yeah, like exactly. My husband keeps that, and yeah, and I'd go for that and just overdo it on that, like having a bowl of yogurt with a bit of honey in it, some blueberries. It's got some really
Yeah.
nutritional value in it, and and if I did have chocolate at home, chuck the chocolate in there too. Yeah, like
Yes.
open the Easter eggs or something. Yeah, yeah.
Portion controller as well. So
Mhm.
bags of chips you can buy in small packets. So it's kind of that,
Oh,
every time you open the packet, you have to like open the packet and think, okay, I'm gonna have some chips now. Where if it was one big packet, one, you don't have the portion control because you don't know how much you're eating. But if you
mm,
have the smaller packets, every time you go, you might want to go and have an extra packet, but every time you add a packet, you've got to go through the process of
mm,
opening it and you can ask yourself, oh, am I full? Am I hungry? So it
yeah,
gives you that little bit more time to actually think, oh, well, why am I eating this? You know, I'm
true.
allowed to eat it, but do I need to eat 2 bags? So
Yeah.
I actually get my clients to
Mhm.
have, if they're having chocolate or crisps in their plans, they're just like the little bags.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
Yep,
Finding those ways to, because like you said, you're also about that flexibility and not banning, not restricting, not repeating those diet culture
yep.
that feeds that mindset as well. But finding ways to help support that control portion, yeah, control around it. Made me think of I love well, I I like cheese. I wouldn't say it's the thing that I would gorge on. Uh, and in saying that, occasionally I can, but I started buying these cheese sticks. And so at least when I would open up a cheese stick and all the plastic, I was like, okay, well, I just have that one. But yeah, about portion control. Or when I make my little yogurt dessert, I have this little bowl. So I've got a big, because just budget, shopping, big yogurt tub. But I have my little small bowl that I grab and I, fill. Yeah. Well, not completely
Yes.
fill, but
They're
yeah.
good, those bowls. I have them as well.
Yeah, it's just finding ways, like you said, to satisfy, not restrict, get the nutrients you need whilst not, yeah, completely restricting yourself from processed, high sugar, whatever foods that we need less of, but don't want to completely ban ourselves from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotta live a little.
Yeah, got to live a little. And that's what I love about your approach as well. I was wanting to make space because as you've mentioned, you also work in the exercise space. And I know our focus is on nutrition today, so I'm not going to push you or like make it huge, but I know you were talking earlier about how we part of the diet culture and exercise culture, it's sort of like it's all about exercise and and it's like no, nutrition is very important. And as you said, it's there and exercise. But I just thought I'd make space to just check in with I don't know, more just like is there certain tips around exercise, particularly in this midlife space that you find you're working on or helping people with in midlife with their exercise? Yeah.
I would definitely say is cutting it down a little bit. So the thing that I always do, I get them to move their body daily, but
Mm,
that doesn't mean going to the gym, doing HIIT training, doesn't mean like flogging themselves. It
mm,
is just, going out for a walk. So that's the thing that I encourage to do on a daily basis is just move your body in some way. So walking, getting outside, and that type of stuff. So nothing that's going to be really stressful and taxing on the body.
yeah.
And then the other thing that I really love promoting is more the strength side of things,
Mm,
just because of where they're sitting. A big importance for them is holding on to or gaining.
mm,
That's why nutrition is important, as much muscle mass as possible,
mm,
because that's going to help with bone density as well. And
mm,
also, we know that, it's going to start decreasing really quickly. And
mm.
as we get older, we need that muscle mass to, be able to get out of the bathroom older and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Keep
to
that
look,
strong.
yeah.
Um, so that's a big thing. Another huge thing that I find that I do a lot is actually changing kind of the way that they attack the sessions.
Mm,
So instead of, trying to do more and more and more, it's more about, if it is more a cardio type of thing, we're
mm,
trying to not do that as much. We're trying to
mm,
do that more for heart health.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying not to put too much stress
Mm.
on the body from, high intensity stuff and doing lots of cardio
Yeah.
and trying to shift that to, let's focus on getting stronger. Let's focus on getting strong, getting into weights because it's going to really help us
Uh-huh.
and just moving our body in some way every day.
Yeah.
And
I
also Pilates, love Pilates as well.
Yes, I hear that constantly from the
Yep.
experts like yourself. Pilates, Pilates, Pilates. Even my
Yep.
doctor was like, Pilates, Pilates, Pilates. And she's slightly older than me, and and in the perimenopause, and only been in the Pilates space, I think, for the last 4 or 5 years. So she speaks from personal experience as well, but also getting that understanding around how important that is for strengthening our bodies and helping our bodies out, particularly at this stage where we're losing a lot of those things that usually helps, bone density and muscle mass, estrogen, all the things. But there are still things we can do,
Stress
nutrition.
management.
Yeah. Oh, yes, yes, Mara. But I love what you were just saying there about, and I think that was one of the biggest lessons for me that's taken a while to really sink in is needing to slow things down, keep moving, but not keep trying to force myself to move in a way that my body's just saying, nah, nah, that's even if I can get her, not necessarily back to, but wherever she's going to be. It was just I was putting too much stress on the body, like with cardio or running or things that my body just doesn't want to do anymore. And I don't even think I want, well, I know I don't want to do anymore.
But you
Um,
thought you had to do it.
but I thought I had to. I mean, I learned the lesson through you and through a few really great personal trainers that it was, getting into the strength. And I was lucky to get that message in my 30s, like early 30s, and started to incorporate strength training. But I was still putting weight, especially when I hit the 40s and my big burnout as well. So emotionally, mentally, and physically, I was fucked. Excuse the French, but it was bad. I was still pushing my body to do what it really. Hey, midlife women, just a small interruption of this episode to let you know about a vital resource that I have created called the Midlife Reclaimed membership. This is not just another resource hub, but it's a compassionate community that I have built exclusively for midlife women who are burnt out and ready to break free and embrace a renewed sense of purpose. Imagine a safe space where you can connect with like minded women, share your journey, and access practical tools and knowledge to help you grow and thrive. In our community, I personally lead monthly masterclasses and QA sessions, sharing guided practices, a rich library of resources, and effective strategies to help you work with your energy, replenish it, set healthy boundaries, and create a life that truly is aligned with your needs. As I often remind myself, burnout can be our biggest teacher if we pause long enough to listen, to hear her wisdom, and to learn and grow from those who can support us to move in the direction that will help us reclaim our midlife. So, if you're ready to break that isolation and the stigma of burnout and start nurturing your growth in a supportive community, please visit www.burnoutpsychologysupport.com/midlife reclaimed membership to learn more and to join our supportive community. Let's reclaim our midlife together. Well, hey, I feel like we've covered so much, Nick, and I'm sure there's so much more that you've got there in your experience and that you could give to our listeners. And one thing I often say to my guests is that, and the listeners out there, if you have any further questions, please or questions that come from watching this episode, please email me. My email is always in the show notes. Because maybe if Nick is up to or wanting to in the future come back on an episode or maybe do some things for the socials for Midlife Reclaimed to answer some of those questions, but to put you on the spot there.
Oh, no, it's fine.
but just throw in your questions anyway. I'm sure I'll have, certainly look at future episodes covering those kind of things because, yeah, there's so much to cover in this really important space of nutrition, but also exercise and moving our bodies. So it's maybe having you
Yeah.
back talking more to that.
How we can change your exercise.
Yeah, maybe we can have an episode on that. That sounds great. But hey, I always ask my guests this one too, and it's more about like if there's any lasting wisdom that you want to share to the audience, to the midlife women, what would that be around nutrition or even the exercise?
Yes, I would say just enjoy the process and focus on, the habits that can take you to, a healthier you, or rather than focusing on the what the scale says, or oh, I didn't eat this today, or I did this today. Just focus on enjoying the process and knowing that you don't have to be perfect. Just focus on celebrating some wins
Yeah.
and know that it's not a short-term thing. So I know a lot of people compare themselves
Mm,
to other people thinking it should have changed, I should have changed. Just know that it's
mm.
not a quick process.
No.
It's a journey.
Yeah, it certainly is. And when we can embrace that journey, we will see the results, whatever those results might be that unfold, which may not be what you thought about at the start with, but there will be results. There will be. Yeah, it might be the energy, it might be the really enjoying your food, or who knows? Yeah, yeah, but there'll be results. Oh, thank you, Nick. And I want to give space to your work. How do people get in contact with you, work with you, um, connect with you on the socials? Yeah, how do they find you? Mm.
Yes. So if you find me, I don't on Instagram,
Mhm.
I also have a website as well, which is thisislivingnutrition.com
Mhm.
with lots of information on there. But I do post as much education as I can. And I also doing, similar to you, like a bit more of a education course kind of thing where, you can actually learn
Mm.
how to do the journey, but why we do certain things.
Mm.
Because I really like the education side of things, so
Mm.
people
Mm.
know why they're doing it, and you're more likely to do something if you understand it.
100%, right? I feel like a lot of the work I do is education, and I love it too, because I really do see education is power,
Yeah.
to make decisions for ourselves in whatever direction we want. So being able to, spread that education wide through our social media and through is that through the app, Nick, that you mentioned or is that up
Yes.
and running yet?
Yes, it will be up and running very soon.
Okay.
So at the minute it's on dashboard, but it will be via an app.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah, for all nutrition and training stuff as well. That's all through my
Right.
Instagram.
And that obviously would be available internationally, like anyone with internet
Yes,
access. Yay. And in terms of working one-on-one with you, is that, or in small groups, because I know you used to do that, is that something that Australia locally, or is that something you do
I
online?
do that. I work with clients because I have obviously clients in England as well. So yeah, I
Oh,
work with
well,
anyone. Anyone
yay.
that needs a little bit of help along the way, I'm
Yeah, because
here.
I think that's important to know because I know a lot of my audience, some are in the US, some UK as well, across the world, most in Australia, but there's definitely across the world. So just seeing if they can access you globally as well, that's really cool. Well, I will leave you the links to both your socials and of course your website. So, and imagine you'd have a mailing list as well, Nick, that they could join so they can stay in
Yes, I do.
contact.
I think you can join that via the website.
Yeah. So that way, with the app and all that kind of
Yeah,
developments, they can
keep you up
stay.
to speed.
Keep you up to speed. That's what I say my mailing list is about, is just keeping you up to speed. And
Yes.
you can unsubscribe at any time. So, whatever. Okay, well, Nick, well, thank you so much for your willingness to come on and share your wisdom to the world. I really do value that because I know it's your time. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for thinking of me and inviting me.
It was my absolute pleasure. It was a long time coming, but thank you so much.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you for joining me on Midlife Reclaimed. I am Shannon A. Swales, and I hope the conversation today sparks some ideas, helps support you along your way in reclaiming your midlife. Now, if you'd like to stay connected, and we encourage you to do so, please subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and stay in contact with Midlife Reclaimed episodes. You can also follow us on social media under Shannon A. Swales. And also, if you want to dive deeper into this and be part of a community, check out our Midlife Reclaimed membership. The link is in the show notes. Now, before you go, please remember that if you're feeling overwhelmed, distressed, seek professional support. This podcast, whilst delivers valuable content, it is general in nature, is not a replacement for therapist-client relationships. So we, from the bottom of our heart, encourage you to seek that support. We're not meant to do this alone. Let's reclaim our midlife together, one courageous, bold step at a time. Take care of you. Bye for now.